me a picture of him all painted head with like, skeleton and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, what is that? Ready for the Halloween? Yeah. Are you doing anything?
Good afternoon, Quasar Markets Live. I am back here with Agnieszka Wood, our trading mindset coach. How are you doing today?
Awesome. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. We've had so much stuff going on in the news today, so definitely a good day to have you around like every day. Um, but GDP data was out there. We had Google with good earnings, bad earnings. They were moving the markets today for sure. We
Definitely.
had on our FX expert this morning, Stephen Flanagan. He says, these markets are still overblown, in his opinion, overblown. So we'll
Yeah, but as
see.
long as they're overblown, I mean, let's get
Yeah, we
something out
play
of
the
it,
hand in
right?
front of us as great volatility. As I told him,
Absolutely.
that's the one thing. I was of the opinion that volatility is going to die, or at least what I've seen is option volatility really decreases right after the election.
Mm.
He's saying that in the FX markets, expect volatility to almost take off after the elections
Oh,
as
wow.
the reactions happen and everything. So again, volatility for traders we love, right? We need
Yeah.
that movement, and that's what we make our money on. So we would, so that's not scary to me, but it's been different than what I had heard a lot of different
Yeah.
places.
And
Uh,
again, a testament to know your markets, right? Know your terrain that you're
Yeah, for
moving.
sure. You and I spoke about something last time we were on, and I just saw that Charles Schwab is joining in with it also. They're increasing their 24-hour trading capabilities tremendously. So
God
I
save
bring it
us.
up because I think it really goes to the fact that this is why people need someone like yourself to help keep you mentally set and mentally grounded to
Yeah.
prepare for your day. Like I've said, you just using your free guides have really changed a lot of the ways that I've looked at the market. Like today I've sat out. I just didn't like the way the market looked for me. I wasn't seeing a good pattern today. So I just would have sat on my hands and just been watching what's going on. And that probably wouldn't have been my way that I would have done. I would have forced something
Uh,
to look what I thought was going to happen there. So I
yeah.
do thank you for that, for
You're
sure.
welcome. It's interesting because I sometimes feel almost like like I deal a lot with addictions
Right,
because
we are. I'm addicted to trading. I don't have a problem saying that. You know.
yeah. Well, what I meant was
Oh,
I my a lot of clients of mine, they seem like, like trading is just type of an addiction, and it's just so difficult to get away from it. So sometimes I'm like, am I a trading mindset coach, and am I like an addiction specialist?
I think a little bit of both because I think you're right. I mean, it is the adrenaline that comes from a trade, whether it's winning or
Yeah,
losing. We always say we're not gambling, and we try to stress to our viewers that it's not hope and a prayer when you're making a decision on investing or trading. It should be backed in a good thesis.
right, right.
And that's why I don't like the words. I was talking with Jay Woods from the CMT, and he's very big on don't ever use that term double down. You can cost average because you got to get your head out of that philosophy. And I catch myself using hope a lot. Well, I was hoping, stop, take that. I got to
Right.
start to try to, I catch myself now with it. I've got to figure out now what I do next. But wanting to take that out of my vernacular because I don't think it's correct. We don't hope. My educated guess or my educated assumption is that this is going to happen next. And that's
Yeah.
why I made the trade.
And I can tell you that a lot of those patterns that we, the way that we talk to ourselves and the words we're using, for a lot of people, it seems like it's not important, but it is very important because we do what we say.
Right?
Um, that's the way we behave. So we pronounce something, and that kind of gives the experience from the inside. We're trying to describe it, right? So yeah, if there is a lot of hope, then probably there is also a lot of expectations. And now, are these expectations realistic or not? So there is a lot to say about that. Plus all the what's called distorted thinking patterns, just simple words that people are using that puts them into trouble and keeps them in certain behavior patterns that they cannot get out just simply because they keep themselves in it by the way that they speak to themselves.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great segue into the first subject that I wanted to talk with you about today. In your email course that, again, you give away for free, right below her on the screen is a QR code. The one that's below her, we'll talk about the one to her right in a second.
Right.
But the one below her gives you these emails, and I found them to be great. To be really helpful for me, not just in my trading, but in getting that sort of work, trade, life balance for me, because I sort of have three. Because, while I do trade for part of my income, I'm also Quasar Markets. So
Right.
trying to balance those three, I think, might sometimes is a little more difficult. But one of the things that you sent out was the power of starting fresh, and I found that to be a great subject to talk about and something that's helped me. And it ties into, and I guess I'd ask you too, how it ties into your habit tracker, because for me, that sort of worked hand in hand together.
Yeah, yeah. Just like in life, it's always like imagine you have a house that's falling apart, the foundation is all rusty, and there's like it's easier to break it all down than trying to repair it because you will lose a lot of energy and you will still not have something that's really solid. And okay, every part of that house I'm building is new and it's put together the way that I want to have it. So the same with trading, if you are bringing some emotions, some losses, some expectations from the days before
Right.
into your trading today, that's just simply going to influence your decisions. And that's not some kind of imaginary thing, because just it's very easy to think about it and taking it into account. Just simply also when you like, even during the same day, if you take a trade and you lost money on it, it's very easy to think, let me take another trade and make that money back.
Right. I'm going to make
Or
it right
think,
up. That's biggest trap that
yeah,
I always try to educate
right,
traders on is no, that's I don't like it on either side. We've talked about too
yeah.
where people will be too quick to say, "Hey, I had this great win this morning. I'm done trading today." And maybe that's not the best either.
Well, it really depends. I mean, it depends what state you're in. Because if you are all hyped up and now you feel invincible, probably the best way to think
Okay.
is I should probably walk away right now. And not I should, but I'm walking away right now because I am feeling invincible. So it's going to influence my decision. And that's
Absolutely.
where resetting and starting fresh is applicable, whether you're just starting a day or whether you're starting trading in general. Getting reset and getting yourself on a sort of a clean slate and take away all your expectations and all your visions of what you have gathered through social media and all the millions that you're thinking you're going to make immediately, and just reset, start fresh. Because if it you know if it looks too good, probably isn't true.
Right, that's for sure. Yeah, that it goes for trading for sure. When we get too
Yeah.
confident, we make some of our biggest mistakes because we make sizing decisions and we take a risk reward maybe that isn't in our favor because we do feel invincible. You definitely have to be careful with that.
Yeah, and it's just a simple assumption. Okay, I have had three good trades today, and your brain automatically assumes the next one will be good one too. But
Right.
if you look at probability, the numbers say no, it's not. That's not the case. So
Yeah.
it's that this discrepancy between what you might be imagining and what is the actual reality of probability theory, right? That the
Yeah.
environment you are dealing with. So that discrepancy gets bigger the more emotional and the more attached you get to your results, whether it's a loss or a win.
Right. Every trade is independent of every other trade, quite honestly. It's the same as a flip of the
Exactly.
coin, right? Everybody always thinks, and that's the whole, that I forget the principle that it is in gambling where you double up every single time and eventually you're going to win. And usually what happens
Yeah,
is no, you run out of money before the trend runs the other
right,
way. And that would go a little bit to why, for me, like I said, for traders that are having a successful day, I guess I should, circling back, is that, just because you've had success doesn't mean you're not going to continue as long as you're following your thesis in it. And that what I've seen is people just have I've told you I don't like quoters either way. Like I don't like that you have a daily loss limit, and I don't like that you have a daily once I make
right,
$1,000 I'm done because I hit my number. Because what you're doing is you're limiting yourself sometimes
right,
because some days you just are in the right mindset, in tune with the way that the trading day is going, so you want to take advantage of that. It's like you're saying though, it's every trade is independent of each other, so be
right.
careful of that over exuberance. If you're forcing a trade that isn't there, you don't want to do that,
Exactly. And
because
if you
there's
if you speak of the habit tracker, well, the way that you can connect it is what actually made me successful today. What is it that it makes me having all great trades? It's not just like, oh, the market knows I'm here and now today the market is kind to me, or I'm just such a fantastic trader today. Now you probably have done something. Most likely you have either prepared really well or you are more rested, more to be able to follow your plan. You're more disciplined. There is something you are actually doing that is giving you that result. And yes, there is part of the probability, but again, it's like the way that you are able to manage it
right.
is something that you do, right? So now, if you had a great, you're on a winning streak, and you feel, you know what, it's going really great. And then the next day it's like, oh, it's going so great. Maybe I just skip my routine. And you might not even
Right.
thinking consciously. You're just like, oh, it's so great. I'm just going to go there and just wing it.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's
no,
what you
and that's
do.
exactly what I was sort of saying on the other side is, as long as like you're saying, as long as you're getting reset in between those trades and you are making a trade that's based upon the right facts and thesis that you
Right,
have in place, it's the same way as resetting. I guess I look at it taking it even more as resetting in between trades too
right.
is
Yeah,
very
totally.
important. Would you take that one step further
Oh
that
my
way?
God, absolutely. It's, that has everything to do with realizing that you are operating in a stressful environment, right? So if you want to perform well, like even there are breaks, short pauses between games, right?
Sure.
If you are performing, there is always a pause. So in trading, you are exposed to stress, and you need to give your nervous system a moment to recuperate and sort of reset and get back to neutral, whether you had a win or you had a loss. So just having in mind your best interest and having in mind of your own system, your body simply, and how you want to be in front of your computer. Do you want to be stressed, or do you want to push yourself more and more, that stress level, because it is going to show at some point and have impact on your health.
Absolutely, and I do think that's what's important. I think it ties in to, like you said, the resetting yourself before your trading day, using your daily tracker to figure out exactly what does that mean. What does that reset mean? For some people, it
Right,
might be taking a walk or meditating or just eating a good breakfast or waking up a little bit earlier so that they feel more prepared. Whatever that
right,
might be, following through for that. My next question would be, now I get in my and the second part of that was, I also think it's important to take that one step further and reset after trades. I don't think enough traders do that. Take a deep breath and, sort of
right.
reset yourself so that you don't fall into that trap of over trading or under trading based on your last one. You got to make sure,
Exactly.
we all say we're over the last trade. Sometimes it's important to realize, are you really over that last trade or not before you move on?
Right. Just like, I like to compare a lot to relationships. If you have had a relationship, you really want to reset before you get into the next one, because otherwise you will bring all your experience and all the things you have in your head into your next relation. And if
Yeah.
you really want to have a better relationship, because most likely you finished the last one because of you wanted something better, then don't bring your old stuff into the new house, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. That's
Just
exactly it.
reset, get clear on what was the reason for your good trade, or what was the reason why the trade didn't work. What is it that you can do about it? Get clear on what emotional state you are in, and do some of the exercises like breathing or a walk outside. Just make sure that you can ground yourself and detach from that result. And I can tell you, sometimes when you had a really bad day, it might take you a day
Right? Oh
to
yeah,
reset.
I've had that where I've had where a couple of bad days led to just I need to take the rest of the week off, so to speak,
Exactly.
to give myself a second because sometimes you
Yeah.
just don't you don't read the market. Sometimes you just hit it and it's on all cylinders and it's just you vibe with it, in my opinion, and sometimes you don't, and you got to get that
Right.
reset so you can get back in there. My
Yeah.
next question is, though, and I think you have a great acronym for this, if I'm not mistaken, is once, expectations. That's why I said resetting in between the trade. I thought it segued
Hmm.
really well into your fear.
Right.
And that's a big one, too. It's not about just managing in between trades, but how you're managing your thoughts and emotions during a trade is
Right.
probably more important.
Yes, it's important overall. It's like I cannot stress enough your self-talk, how important it is in every single part of your journey, every single part of your life to start with. But in trading, in it is it really decides about how you feel, how you think, how you act, how you respond, or how you react if you cannot respond. So that that is really key. And the acronym you're talking about is fear, right?
Yep.
Which I cannot take credit for, but that's the best accurate acronym that I found, was false expectation appearing real. And now the part of the your thought and your self-talk, whether you are just entering a trade or you are in the trade, is how are you talking to yourself? Are you scaring yourself? Are you telling yourself a story, or are you telling yourself what you actually see? Because we are very good in telling ourselves stories,
Right.
and usually the stories that we want to hear,
Absolutely.
because
We're our own
we want
worst
to be
echo
right.
chambers.
Yeah, we want to be right. It's very, very human thing. We have a theory, and now we are looking for evidence. This is how our brain works, right? This is how we build beliefs. So that's not like, something extraordinary, but being aware of it is very extraordinary, because not many people are, and not many people take time to build that awareness.
Right.
So if you are in a trade, one of the things that really worked for me and worked for my students that I recommend is try to be a sort of an advocate of the devil and take the other side. Sit on the other chair. And if you are about to go long, just ask yourself, like, if I wasn't planning to go long, would I go short? Is this
Right.
like, just look from different perspective, different side,
I've
challenge
heard
yourself.
traders that turn their chart upside down and decide if they would get the opposite view than they're saying now. So you turn it upside down, and what do you get? Did you get, if you thought it was going to go
Right,
up, if you turn it upside down, do you still think it's going to go up? If so, then obviously you have a bias that it's going to
right,
go up. And
right.
that's, a lot of traders actually do that. It's
Yeah, and that's, whatever the technique is that you use for yourself, it's important to pause and ask yourself those critical questions. And if you don't, and if you feel like, oh, I don't have time for it, that's even more reason, because now you know you're pushing. Now you know you're rushing into something. Now you know that, okay, I am actually just trying to prove my theory. And I can understand, like, if you're a day trader on a lower time frame, and there is, the decisions that you have to quickly make, there might not be all the time to write down your thoughts and to start analyzing it, because you're just going in and going out. But it is important to do it at least afterwards, to notice those patterns, notice your thoughts, like, what made you make this decision? How did you talk yourself into it, or how did you talk yourself out of it? Because when you plan your trade, you have a different perspective, you have a different talk, different story,
Sure.
And then you're in it emotionally engaged and involved, and now your story is changing. Now there's fear coming in. Am I going to lose what I have, or am I going to get stopped out, or what if I lose money? And now you start really making all these stories in your head that did not exist before. And
Yeah.
some of them might be legit, because maybe the chart is turning around. But the question is, are you actually aware of what is it that you're doing?
And why you're doing it.
Yeah,
Is it based on this false expectation that you had, or is it
right,
based on what you are seeing in front of you? Yeah, I mean, that's why I am big, as you know, on OCO trades, where I put in my parameters, because I'm a firm believer, and I use a risk reward way that allows me to not have to win at 90%, but if I win at 60%, I do very well, because I limit my losses and let my
right.
wins run and then lock them in. And that style requires that. And then what it does is, for me, for me, it's more, I use it as I'm setting up my trade better than where I try to take the fear out. For me personally, has to be before I pull that trigger, because
Right.
I am locking and loading pretty much everything into a set and forget. And I don't just leave it. I do adjust as things happen.
Right.
But that, for me, that actually is moved up a little bit in the process or the methodology of my trading.
Yeah, very good. It's the part of trade management, that's where all these things are happening inside, right?
Yeah.
And how do you make sure that you're still seeing what's in front of you, instead of
Right.
that you are seeing what you expect to see, or that you are trying to convince yourself you see something. And I know that a lot of traders are stubborn. I know how stubborn I still am at some,
Right.
with some things I am stubborn. um, but and that's not an easy thing to admit if you're not right.
Yeah.
So what I did at least taught myself is I would ask a second opinion. And sometimes the second opinion is I ask myself a second opinion, so that, like that, putting myself on a different chair, like what would I say if I wasn't in it, or what would I say if I was on the opposite side? And sometimes I will ask another trader, like, what do you think about it? Because it's not to ask, like, tell me what to do, but it's more, tell me what you think about it, so I can feel whether what I think about it is just being an act of stubbornness and trying to prove something, or is it something that I'm thinking, okay, I see your point, and I see your thinking, and I'm trading on a different time frame, and I have a different plan,
Right.
so I'm going to stick to my plan. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to throw everything upside down, but just kind of, you will notice that feeling, like, just like, when you do something, or you want to do something, and someone has the opposite opinion, you will often get the feeling of defensive, like, right, like you
Sure.
have. So when you have the feeling of defensive, it's like a red flag. If you're defensive about your
That's a great
trade,
takeaway and a great
red
point to,
flag.
a trigger to watch for. That's
Yes,
definitely a great
absolutely.
trigger to watch for.
Yes, absolutely. Um, Something else I wanted to mention, oh yeah, speaking of fear, I'm guilty myself of, like, I have done this mistake so many times, but being stubborn and sticking into loser and hoping for it to come back, and it never did. And so if if you fear something, in trading, whether you're in a position and it's not going to come back, I think it's really good to look at the chart of SMCI today, and look at the chart since, before the split, few months back. If there is anything that you want to fear in trading, this is the type of case you should be fearing.
Right.
And I'm sure that there is a lot of other charts like this, like, literally print it out, put it on your wall, and write fear on it. Because
I have
this
it
is,
up for us on the screen.
I have been trading this when it was like $900, $1,000. And at that time, there was no shred of thought in my head that this thing might do this, you know? So
Yeah.
the thing is like when things are good, they're good. Just like in a relationship.
Yeah.
When things are good, you never think there will be wrong. But when they go wrong, it just collapses completely. And you have to know when to be out.
Yeah,
You gotta
Boeing's
make
the same way
sure that
right
you
now too. It's yeah, yeah. People always say, well, how far can it go? You'd be amazed. Again, this is like you're saying, in based on the way the shares have split since, but this was a stock that went from 30 to 120 and
yeah,
now back at 30. So it made a
yeah,
whole
and
round
nothing is
trip.
that
I mean,
serious, you know?
it's given
Yeah,
up all of its gains in 2024.
totally. Now, another example is APP, and I think maybe we talked about it before. APP, how far it can go, who knows? This thing is strong and on a huge, huge buying volume. So
Which one
if
was
you
it?
did APP,
APP.
Apple
Okay.
Aluminium,
Yeah. We have not talked about it.
this thing is as
Oh wow.
strong as hell.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I have been watching this for a several, like for that breakout, I've been watching it like a hawk. But just look at the volume, right? But if you think, oh, it's extended now, it cannot go any higher, well, forget it. Like
Yeah, just look
you
at the
have
RSI. The
no idea.
RSI broke into extended back on
Yeah,
September 15th and it's
yeah,
maintained. I mean, that's when Bitcoin went on its bull runs, you would see these things where we would hug the 90 spot for,
yeah,
weeks.
yeah. And then it
So
works
how
it
long
out.
can it go? It can go forever in
Yeah,
theory.
and
Um,
it's so those are examples of take those and fear this to go against the trend or to get stuck onto some idea and be stubborn because these are this just kind of shows you that you just never know and your thesis is just a
Yeah, no,
theory.
and this is a perfect example of one because, on its run here from 63 to 92, teeters out, starts to teeter out. And, the 50 MA would have given you some support you would have thought about, but there you'd probably be starting to short. And like you're saying, if you're still convinced it takes this run and you're
Right,
saying, okay, it got to 130, but man, look at that drop here from 131 to 128. Here it goes. It's going. I'm doubling down on my
exactly,
short. Wait a second. Now it came
right,
up, and paused it off. Yeah,
right,
this is one, like you said, you'll run out of money before it stops, before the market runs out of
exactly.
juice. It's one that's interesting though, because the other side of that is this is one that I'll definitely look for when it does actually turn over and you see a clear break to the breakdown. It gets through a few different levels. These
Yeah,
tend to, make those pretty big pullbacks.
yeah.
But it can
Another is
take a long time. Look at
CVNA.
Palantir's another one that's in that boat right now.
Which one?
Everyone just says it just keeps going to new highs.
Which one is
And
that?
Palantir,
Oh,
PLTR,
PLDR. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
again, very similar to the chart you just showed.
Totally.
This thing, in February was trading at 16. Today it's at 44. And again,
Yeah,
you can see where, hey, I'm going to short it here. Oh no, well, I'm going to short it here, and then it gaps up from 30
right,
to 33 on you all the way to 35,
right.
in one session.
So yeah, you can
When does
have
it
an
stop?
idea.
That's the thing. Again,
Yeah,
I guess those I'm a little bit more immune to because of growing up in the world of Bitcoin, where this super cycle, I've seen them, so I do get that it can happen. You know, these are more the ones for me, like an Nvidia, where I look for a pullback. Again, Nvidia is
mm,
another one that's done this. Just miraculous. Here, if I can get a pullback towards that 50-day MA, I'm like, you know what? I'm not fighting the tide. I'm getting in with it. I'm a trend momentum trader, as you know. So those are the
right.
things that I look at is bounce backs to those sort of consolidation levels, and then let's row, undercut and rally, baby. That's my
Totally.
theory.
Another
Uh,
one, another one that's really interesting is CVNA,
CYNA,
CVNA,
VNA.
Carvana.
Oh,
So they
Kavana.
have
Yeah.
actually
Oh, yeah.
earnings today. They have earnings today.
Yeah. I mean, they came back from the dead. I mean, they were being sued
Yeah,
in 50 states and
yeah.
everything else.
I
Left for
started
dead. I
buying
know
it.
so many people that left for them for dead down here. I mean, think about if you made that play as soon as it broke the 200-day MA, which it hadn't challenged in, a year or so. That was at
Yeah.
$14.56 last
And I
June.
started buying it at like 39 level. That's where I started buying it.
Nice.
But then, it had the run, and I was actually I got out, and then I got back in when it after the pullback. I got back in, so I have been in it a few times, and now eventually I just bought it, and I'm like, I'm just gonna leave it
Just gonna
there,
hold this in my long
just
term. It's
gonna
it's
hold it.
earned
So
it's
now
earned
it's
its
like,
way there. It's earned its way into the long term.
yeah, so now it's
Yeah,
like around 80%
again,
profit, so it's, and now there's another type of question. It's like, so how far can this go? Right? So this is actually that moment. It's like 80% profit, actually over 80% profit that I have right now. It's like, how far can this go? And do I want to wait for the pullback? Do I just take partial? And like that whole I really look into my head and
right.
see, am I just want to lock in some profit because I'm scared, or is this really an opportunity to go even higher? And how am I going to manage that and take myself and my wishes out of equation, my fears and all
Right.
the things like, oh my God, what if it doesn't go higher? you know?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's a tough one to make a decision, on. No one likes to give up profits on either side, and it all depends on the trade and what your goal is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Steve's somebody who leaves a lot of pennies on the table, on these scalps he does every morning with us. But it's again because of the risk reward that he's playing with. It's how it fits his model.
Yeah.
That it's for everybody. It's different.
Exactly.
Um,
And I think understanding that is so important, not trying to be like someone else, because everyone has a different resilience, different patience, different way of managing. So um, I'm okay with waiting, but I'm also okay if I lose a little bit of profit, and then, I have certain pullback, and I'm resilient to wait. I'm not going to be stressed if it pulls back. You know what I mean?
right,
So
and
it's
that's important that you're trading within your comfort level. That is a big
exactly,
thing that people don't spend enough time understanding. What is their risk tolerance and how to trade in a way that makes that work. And it's so important for people because there's no risk free investment. The closest would be treasury bonds, right? It's going to earn 4.2%, and as long as the US government's still here and doesn't default on its debt, you're
right.
pretty solid. And then you can use covered calls, selling cash covered puts and things like that have less risk than a regular stock trade. People don't realize that there's levels in between just buying a stock and selling a stock that you can look
Yeah.
at, because for some people it is the way to do it. I know people that are closer to retirement and don't necessarily want to be as risky, but they're still looking to make income, and that's like the perfect example for them is to use, buy
Totally.
100 shares of Carvana and then be selling options, calls and puts around that to lower your cost of entry and earn income on it. So you
Yeah.
won't get all of the growth. So I guess that might be my answer to you with what you're saying. What you're doing is, depending on how much you own, you could look to use the option market to gain premium back as earnings. It's almost like you're renting out your stock. That's what you're doing.
Right.
As
Right.
long as what you do is you set a comfort level to where you'd be okay if it gets assigned away. So if you were saying to yourself, you know what, it's trading at 213, man, if it made it to 225 and that got me to 100% profit or whatever it was, because you said you're like at 80, and
Yeah.
I'm never going to be mad with 100% profit. So then sell some covered calls, with those stocks at that level and earn income on its way up there. And all you would do is you'll earn that premium you gained for selling that, option.
I'm gonna look
And if it
into
gets taken
it
away, it's done over there. Yeah. So
because I
it's
don't trade often, so
it's
I
fun.
don't have
That's
a
what I
really
love about
clear
Quasar
understanding.
Markets is I'm learning so many different ways, and different things to look at and ways to look at the market, and how to adjust your portfolio. It's
Right.
important for people that, and like you said, that risk tolerance level and the fear within you, and being able to steady yourself. Some of these things we talk about that are a little bit less risky. ETFs obviously become a little bit less risky than an individual stock. The host sector is,
Right.
SCMI, if that was a NASDAQ 100, wouldn't have crashed the NASDAQ 100 because it's only one of 100 stocks within that. So there are
Right.
different things that, we like to tell people that I think are important too, is in lowering some of that stress that you put on yourselves, and you can still be a trader.
Know
Would never work
yourself.
for me. I run more to the riskier side of things and like to play with,
Yeah, I
leverage
hear
plays
you.
on MSTR and others, so a little bit
I
different.
hear you.
I do want to bring up again, just want to make sure I pull up the right thing here. You have sent me a QR code that I hid for a second. There it is. And now I
Oh,
have back up. Agnieszka has a 3-month program that she runs, and she's just finishing up it right now. It's only 12 students. I'm going to ask you to talk more about it, but
yes.
this is a QR code to get on the waiting list. I can't tell you how much she has done to make my trading better, just with her free tips and spending some time with me here on a couple of times a week. I can guarantee traders it's going to help you, not only in your trading, but in your work-life balance.
Absolutely. It's actually it's pretty cool because um, we just had a 2 months evaluation of the current group, and I have some results that I can actually tell you. So this is a 3 months program, and all the students that have joined in August, they have been trading for many years, 10 years since 2016, so like 8 years. So, and they have been struggling with consistency and, just the usual thing, over trading and not being able to control emotions and giving away their profits. So really the usual symptoms, I call them
Sure.
symptoms of just not being able to exist in that environment and make the rational decisions that you need to do as a trader. So just after 2 months, I have the results here. So if it's okay, I can maybe read some.
Sure.
Says, I'm approaching the market more mentally prepared than before. I've developed much more discipline in sticking to my plan and eliminating impulsive trades. My most noticeable win, however, has been waiting patiently for my setup and evaluating it when I get an alert versus getting an alert and just entering without confirmation.
Yeah.
Like
That's
how
just
many?
that's perfect because what we just talked about,
I
resetting in
know, I
between your
know.
trade.
I've been able to allow my winners to run longer, and I've begun using emotional regulation techniques to manage my emotions in trade. The foundational skill of self-awareness combined with other skills is impacting my personal life and trading in a positive way. I have noticed greater consistency in my results, not getting shaken out of winners and cutting losers appropriately. My most profitable trade from a percentage and dollar perspective was this month. And then
Fantastic.
another trader said, um, I see more consistency in both how I feel when I'm at my desk and the P&L. The ups and downs are much smaller, but the equity curve is consistently positive. I doubled my account since the start of this journey. So
Wow.
it's just absolutely fantastic. And we are not done yet. So we still have a few weeks to go. But it's just absolutely
Yeah, well, I
incredible
mean,
to
I
see
could see
results
it.
like
I
this.
can see why that would be the case. You do a fantastic job at letting traders come to their own realizations. At least for me,
Right.
that's been the case. I'm stubborn. I don't like to listen very much, but I do have decent self-awareness when forced to reckon with it. And that's what your emails and your courses so far have provided for me. So again, I can't thank you enough for that. Um,
Very happy to hear.
and
Yeah,
what
and if you are interested, if you are really sitting on the fence of like I've been trying to make my trading work and I can't, um, this is really no brainer because I give you money back guarantee. I let you try like go into my program, try it for a month, join my sessions for the full month, have everything just like you would normally do the program. If you say after a month it's not working for me, you get your money back. You
That's
know,
amazing. Not no, there's not many services that offer that.
yeah,
Um,
plus, just 12 people in a group, and we have daily contact on Discord, like literally on audio. If you need extra assistance, and I'm just always there. So it is not you're just buying classes and some video and watch and whatever. No, I'm really
No, this
pulling
is,
it through
and you
that.
coach people based upon their different needs, and that's what
Yes,
makes you so different
yes,
than a lot of the
yeah.
other educators. And that's why you're a coach, you're not an educator. Well, you do
I'm
educate
not
us,
with the kids.
but it really is, there's a big difference, it really is. Because you are more of a mentor, in my opinion, to these clients of yours. I am sure that that's how they look at it.
Yeah, and just the whole atmosphere it's really an atmosphere of vulnerability, and people are feel free and safe to open up and really go through that transformation, because I mean, looking at ourselves is not an easy thing, right? And
Nope.
to see the what we consider failures or mistakes, it's not easy. But the this is completely not the setup of the group. This is very constructive and empowering group of people that I'm putting together. So I'm doing the qualifying calls to make sure that everyone is committed and everyone is looking in one way, and not, that we can actually have everyone achieve their goals in just 12 weeks. I mean, it's pretty incredible. If you
That
have
is
been struggling for
fantastic.
years, and in 12 weeks you start having, doubling on accounts and having consistent
Yeah.
profit, it's incredible.
There's not many trading companies that can say that. So again, only 12 people get in. Please sign up earlier than later. You will regret not getting in now.
Yeah.
And again, I thank you so much, Agnieszka, for joining me
Thank you, Howard.
today. We'll be back together again next Wednesday. I won't be here on
Right.
Monday. So thank you so much and have a great week.
And thank you too. Thanks, everyone.